Now, speaking of being the opposite of that, poor hosts.
Geez.
Well, the 49ers were very poor hosts when the Cowboys came to town a week and a half ago.
They were rude and unwelcoming, Mark.
Micah Parsons is doing good and bad things right now. One thing that Micah is doing is he's almost taking a page out of the Kelsey book, the Draymond book, which is, soon as anything happens, get your butt to the podcast. Get your butt to the podcast as quick as possible because you're going to build a brand. His podcast is called The Edge. This week, the Cowboys get a win on Monday Night Football. The Eagles and 49ers get a loss. Listen to how Micah handled that specific scenario.
I just don't condone the bashing of Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys and have the same energy for the Eagles. We want the same energy for everybody because there's a whole bunch of bashing when it's Dak Prescott, but not the same when it's the Eagles. I got time today. A lot of people said the Browns defense was overhyped. I said the Browns are the real deal. Acho said this, which pissed me off. I'm not worried about the 49ers. They were missing Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel. The Browns were missing Deshaun Watson, Nick Chubb. They were missing them key factors before the game even started. So why is it that we are just scrubs and we're nobodies that don't deserve to be on the field and we're just all talk? But there's 100 excuses for these other teams. If y'all just want to hate Cowboys Nation, just say y'all hate Cowboys Nation. I'm tired of people trashing my quarterback. I'm tired of people trashing my team. And that's why I had nothing to say to the media this week. You want to hear me talk? Come to hear me talk on The Edge Monday night. And that's point blank period.
Okay, before we react to that, Fieldwork Brewing Company family, do y'all hate Cowboy Nation? Let's hear it. So first and foremost, there's nothing wrong with that. Hating Cowboy Nation is what you're supposed to do as a human being. That just means you're a good person.
Well, there's no such thing as Cowboy Nation, first of all. There are only two nations, the Raider Nation and the Sioux Nation, which was the original nation.
What about hashtag Dub Nation? We're here at Warrior Summit. You're going to leave out Dub Nation? Steph Curry would like a word.
It's not Dub Nation. It's strength in numbers. It's Warriors Ground. It's many other things. We can be creative without having to nation everything. But go ahead.
That's what he tweets before every game. Lock in Dub Nation.
Right, and it's a bite off the Raiders, and it's an unfortunate bite.
Okay.
And it's regrettable.
All right. Dibs came to Fieldwork to rip Steph Curry. Go on.
You came here to rip an athlete for speaking his mind after yesterday you went out of your way to defend the right for athletes to speak their mind.
I have no problem with athletes speaking their mind. I have no problem with
You just don't like what Micah Parsons is saying.
Well, I think that he's leaving something out. If he wants to have a podcast, I think it's fantastic.
Well, he's coming at one guy in particular.
He's coming at Emmanuel Acho.
Right, and I didn't hear what Acho had to say.
Acho, that was the 49er piece. The Eagles thing is not about Acho. His point is you all freaked out about Dak Prescott when he had a bad game and lost, and nobody said a damn word when Jalen Hurts and Brock Purdy went out and had bad games and lost. The problem is I didn't see Brock Purdy throw 3 picks. I didn't see Jalen Hurts. Now, I did see him throw a real bad pick.
Really bad pick.
Really bad pick. But what I did not see is Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts lose by 4.5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
4.5 touchdowns. You lost by 32 points.
And it wasn't that close, Mark.
No. So, to me, great. Have your podcast. Have a take. Don't suck. And you can rip whoever you want in a public forum. That's fantastic. Grow your brand, my brother. I got you. But your points, when you make them, are now open for debate. And my response to Micah Parsons would be what happened to you at Levi's Stadium on Sunday night a week and a half ago is not akin to anything that we've seen happen to any other of the top teams except one. If you want to compare this to any other of the 5-1 teams, you compare it to the Miami Dolphins.
Right.
What happened to them?
They got freaked in Buffalo.
When they took on the Buffalo Bills and lost by 4 touchdowns. When you get completely outclassed on a football field, we are allowed to say that. That did not happen to the 49ers or the Eagles last weekend. They simply lost football games.
Yeah, but I think that what he's saying, what I'm hearing him say, is that he thinks that Dak is bearing too much of the responsibility for that loss. And there's too many people who are coming down Dak's road for the fact that he's not playing well, and that's what I'm hearing him say. He's defending his quarterback, like Eric Armstead is defending his kicker. He was defending his quarterback, saying too many people in the media, and he singled out Emmanuel Acho, are singling out Dak Prescott as the reason that Dallas isn't as good as they thought they'd be.
Well, I do think, look, that resume plays into this. Jalen Hurts and Brock Purdy are both still relatively new to the party.
Yeah.
They're young players. Jalen Hurts has had like one full season where he was like, everybody get out the way. This is our QB. We back him.
Don't both have more playoff wins than Dak already?
Indeed.
Because Dak's got the one, right?
Indeed.
And Jalen's got
Jalen
3.
went to the Super Bowl. Brock is 2-1.
Right. Wow.
And he hasn't even played a full season as a starting quarterback yet. So I do think that that's a big part of it. It's almost like the boy who cried wolf. If you're going to show up to a party now and be like, Dak's a really good quarterback, it's like, we've heard this before. We've watched you go into big games, and seemingly every time you do, you come up short. Look, he's had 3 shots at the 49ers just in the last 2.5 years, and he's getting further away. He's not getting closer. He's getting further and further away. While Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts, in theory, every few weeks, every month that we watch them, I feel they look a little better. That may not be the truth for Jalen Hurts this year. He looked a little better last year than he does so far this year. I'm not really sure what that is.
Well, hard to look as good as you did last year when they were, 13-0 to start the year or something?
Fair point. Although Brock Purdy, you probably would have come into this year, and I remember our discussions about whether or not he can get better.
Right.
And it was like, well, how could we be better than last year? Well, through the first 5 games, he was. Now he's had his first loss.
He's been better. He has gotten better.
Absolutely.
And I acknowledge that because that was my question as to, can he get better? And you and I had this discussion about, most quarterbacks at his stage in his career, they do get better. Some regress. It's rare.
Sure.
But he got better, and he got a lot better between last year at the end of the year and this year at the start of the year.
It's bringing to mind something that Grandy threw at us, though, like a week ago with regard to what Dak's career looked like through Brock Purdy levels.
Yeah.
Like once you had started about 11, 12, 13 games, I would argue Purdy's numbers were almost all of them were a little bit better than Dak's, but they were comparable.
Very close.
Dak had only had 1 loss. The completion percentage was just a little bit lower.
Yards per attempt were basically the same.
Pretty even. Touchdown to interception ratio. I think it's important sometimes that for all of us to do this exercise just so we can sort of check our own perceptions. And I mean this in both directions, because I know a lot of you think that I'm like too positive on Brock Purdy. The exercise is to put things side by side and remove the name. The number 1 player in the NFL, I would argue right now, in the what I would call the remove the name game, just line the numbers up next to each other. Take the name away, and you tell me, okay, which quarterback do I want? Which set of numbers do I want? Or which set of numbers do I want to compliment? The number 1 name in the NFL right now is Jared Goff. If you put Jared Goff's numbers next to Tua's or Josh Allen's or Herbert's or Mahomes, you cannot tell the difference. And Purdy is dang close. It's a little bit different on yardage, right? But Goff's team, that's why I keep looking at this. We're only 6 games in, but if you truly want to ask who's a threat to the 49ers right now and the stated goal of the 1 seed, it's not the Eagles with that schedule that's coming up. It's the Lions.
It's Detroit. And
it's the Lions. They look fantastic on both sides of the ball.
I was looking at former coworker Joe Fortenbaugh's Twitter earlier today, and he said something that he probably got from me last week in terms of who wins the NFL MVP. And it's almost always a quarterback, and it's almost always a quarterback on one of the top 2 seeds. And so you look at the top 2 seeds, and as you would forecast them to be right now, if you looked at the top 2 seeds in the NFC, based on what you're saying, and I agree with you, Detroit's schedule, they have an inside track to being one of the top 2, and then either the Niners or the Eagles you would expect would be one of the other top 2, and in the AFC, you would look at Kansas City, Buffalo, Miami as the 3 front runners, but if you look at just those quarterbacks on just those teams and those numbers, and then you add in the wrinkle of the Detroit story, if they wind up going 14-3 and they are the number 1 seed, and Jared Goff is doing what he's doing, he's going to win the MVP.
It's not out of the question. It is not out of the question at all. They already have a 2.5-game lead in their division. I know the 49ers already have I guess theirs is a 1.5-game lead over the Seahawks, but the Lions already have a 2.5-game lead, and you can look at the lay of the land. They're the only team in that division with a winning record. They're going to run away with it. The challenge for the Lions is going to be keeping their focus the last 3 or 4 weeks, because that puppy is going to be over.
Right.
They are going to be playing only for seeding, I would predict, in the last 3 weeks of the season.
Well, that's where the new format actually helps them to stay sharpened, because getting that bye and getting home field throughout is a real thing. You know, when you used to get the top 2 would get the bye, you weren't as incentivized to get the 1. Obviously, you want the 1 for the home field in the conference championship game, but now you get the bye, the all-important bye, when you get the 1 seed.
I'm just pulling some of these numbers up since we're on it, just for fun to kind of look at it right now. By the way, in terms of yardage, Jared Goff, 5th in the league right now with over 1,600 yards. He has thrown for more yards than Mahomes. He has thrown for more yards than Allen. He has thrown for more yards than Hurts. He has thrown for more yards than Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow.
Those are names.
All of them. Yeah. All of them. Like, the people he's behind would even shock you. Everybody knows Tua's leading it with the way that offense is going. But the next 3 are Cousins, Stafford, and C.J. Stroud, of all people. So I do think that that's a good exercise to go through to sort of check how you feel about a player, take the emotion out of it, and look.
And the resume.
And look at the production that you're getting. Goff and Purdy, for me, are the 2 most underappreciated quarterbacks in the NFL this year.
And Purdy continues to lead the league in QBR, not quarterback rating, but the more accurate ESPN stat of QBR, even though he had a bad game. Ooh, Brock had a bad game.
Yeah, second in regular rating now.
But number 1 in QBR, which to me is a more accurate rating. Jared Goff is 4th. And we mentioned the top 2 seeds in each conference as potentially being those 5 teams, and not coincidentally, those 5 quarterbacks are your 5 leaders in QBR. Purdy, Tua, Allen, Mahomes, and Goff.
By the way, and also I still focus on that interception category. To me, it is the thing. It is the number 1 thing, the touchdown to QB ratio that you are asking for your quarterback to do, to not go out there and lose the game. And if I click on QBR and get an ordered list of what's going on in NFL quarterbacking, he is number 1 with 1 interception. And as I roll down the list, it is almost impossible to find another QB, the best in the league, who can match that. All of them, other than Stroud. Stroud is the only other player, and his TD to interception ratio is 9-1. Brock's is 10-1. Those are the only 2 guys who have thrown just 1 pick this year as far as starting quarterbacks who've played most of the game.
Yeah.
Anthony Richardson has also thrown 1.
Is he out for the year?
He's going to be out for the year.
Yeah.
It's not official, but
that's what I heard today.
They are considering. Is it official yet? I knew
not official, but I heard something.
The owner of the team said 2 days ago, looks like he's out for the year.
Yeah.
He's going to have surgery that's going to knock him out.
Which, I mean, Gardner Minshew stepped forward again. Brock Purdy's number 2 in the league in what I think is a more accurate stat in terms of picks, and that's interception rate, like the percentage.
Turnover-worthy plays?
No, just interception rate, like what percentage of your throws. Stroud is at 0.5. Brock Purdy, 0.6%, Mark. 0.6% of his throws result in an interception.